Okay, we're going to look at Mark 10:27. Looking at them, Jesus said, "With people it is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God." God has put a desire in your heart that is impossible to do. You long for things that you can't have or get. Humanity declares, that is not fair. We are right if we stop there, but let's be clear, God is not fair and doesn't have to be. He is just. Let me take a step back from that for a second. God isn't worried about fairness. Fairness is something that humanity has to deal with. It is our expression at a human level of justice. And if we're looking for fairness, life is not fair. That's that core issue. If life was fair, 10% of the world wouldn't have a majority of the resources. 1% of the world wouldn't own, those are not fair. So God isn't worried about fairness. It's far more terrifying. He's worried about justice. And it's a completely different grid in which to work. The world knows this ache in us, but wants us to live with it. They market to make us unhappy and discontent in order to sell something to us so that we will purchase the latest style, color, or fashion statement and keep up with the world and appease the dissatisfaction for a moment. God has no desire to sell us anything. He longs to give himself to us, to open the doors of heaven and bless us. But he cannot because we refuse to acknowledge reality and admit where we are. You cannot help a person who will not admit to needing help and thinks he can do it on his own. At a certain level, it's not fair that God gives you the desire to do something that you can't do. But it's not to punish you. He's not mocking us. It's so that we might lean into him and call out to him, God of the impossible, to bring us, walk with us into that. Where are there impossibilities in your life? Where are you at the limits of what you can do? It is at this place we hate so much that we finally are willing to admit we need help, to call out to God and to ask for help. And it is at that place that he loves to meet us and pour a spirit on us, empower us to do the impossible, and thereby give witness to a God at work in our impossibilities. He gives us a desire to do things we can't do so that we would call out to him for help and build a relationship as we lean into him to do the impossible. Do not fear impossibilities. Fear your refusal to ask for help in the midst of them. Will you face the pain of your inadequacy and ask God to help you? I think of Gideon. God says, army's still too strong. You guys are going to think you did this. I got to pare it down a little bit. I think of Jesus getting to the place on the cross where he actually says to God, I'm not sure I can do this. And then he leans into the impossible, but not my will, but yours be done. We come to the end of ourselves, not because that's his goal, but because that's where that makes the maximum room for him to be engaged with us and to work through us, that the world knows, okay, this happened not because they're so good or smart or capable. This happened because there's another reason and we don't know what it is, and it could only be God. May you find grace for the impossible, to face the unfairness of life, but to look to a God who is just and who will use it all to do something unimaginable beyond all that we could ask